Fantastic to have so many of you online. It feels like forever since I've done a webinar myself. And what we're going to do tonight is something quite unique. There's a bit of feedback, and so if you can just give me some indication as to whether it's just coming through on my side or whether it is feedback on your side as well, it would be very useful. For those of you who don't know how to use a webinar, there is a little button up in the top right corner where you can click and type away and give us feedback. The more feedback we have, the more that we'll be able to actually give you some information. So let me just see there. I can see on our side as well feedback. Okay, so I'll give feedback. Okay, right. What can we do about the feedback? Just 2 seconds. Let me just work this out because it will. Okay. Sorry, just give me 2 seconds here, everyone. Okay, so now if I speak, are we still getting that feedback? Okay, so guys, just from your side, Hennie and Lawrence, Lawrence and William, if you guys could just check, it is feedback on your side. Otherwise, I'm going to have to kind of switch it on, switch it off, because I think the feedback is coming from your side. Basically, what we want to do tonight is that we've just got back from America. We had a very, very interesting 2 and a bit weeks, and I got to spend quite a lot of time with my business partner Hennie. And really, from my perspective, he was sharing with me some of the insights in terms of what he learned at MIPIM. And I said to him, for those of you who had the privilege of coming to the Billionaire Ball, Hennie and I did an interview on his background and the lessons he's learned in terms of international investing and everything else. And I would highly, highly recommend. It's on YouTube, and we can send you the link tomorrow. If you're interested, just put Billionaire Ball link in the little text box. So if you can just type in there Billionaire Ball link, and we'll send you the email tomorrow with the link. And that's where you'll get a huge amount of insight into international property, the mistakes Hennie's made, the successes he's made, the strategies he's come up with. And I really don't think there's any point in actually going through that because it's actually on YouTube. So tonight what we wanted to do was to say, all right, that's what we've learned in terms of the experience. That's where we've come from. But more importantly, kind of where are we going and what are the trends and what do we need to be focusing on? Just as a bit of a recap for some of you that don't know, Hennie is an international investor. He's invested in multiple different continents. He basically has listed 2 companies, one in South Africa and one in Australia. He did his first commercial property in 1992. He specializes in the medical field, and quite interestingly enough, had quite a lot to do in terms of changing the face of the South African medical industry. And again, if you want the link to the Billionaire Ball, Hennie goes into a bit of detail as to how he did that and what happened. Quite interesting how important that experience is once one starts looking at the medical opportunity in America, which is massive, but also the impact that Obamacare is going to have. And it's very, very, very seldom that you get someone that's already been through a metamorphosis or a change in a market and knows what to look for. And then I think the most important thing was that in the early 2000s, he decided that it was time to look offshore and not just do everything locally. And that's really where he went out and started testing some of the different markets. And again, if you go and listen to that Billionaire Ball, he shares some very, very valuable insights in terms of lessons that he learned, not only how he made money, but also how he lost money. And, I can see there's quite a few people online here that were at the Billionaire Ball, and I'm sure that they would all agree, that we got a huge amount of response. And as I said, it's not all about success. I often say the most successful business people, it's not what they did, it's what they learned when it didn't work, because that's really how you limit the downside. That's how you go in and really make sure that you're looking and doing the due diligence and looking after wealth preservation and safety. But there were also the successes. In Australia, taking all that experience, they started with around $4 million. They turned it into about $40 million in about 4.5 years. And so it's pros and cons. But without further ado, what I wanted to do was just to welcome you, Hennie, and to say thanks very much. It's fantastic to have you online and to really be able to delve into the questions and the insights that you got out of that valuable experience that you went to. So welcome on behalf of myself and everyone else that's online tonight. I now need to unmute you so that everyone can actually hear you. So there you are now. Everyone should be able to hear you.
Yeah, thank you, Scott. I think it's a privilege for me to be here and to talk to you.
So Hennie, basically from my perspective, what I want to do is run through tonight, and I want to kind of look at 10 different lessons and trends. The first one for me that's very interesting. You know, I was in London for 9 years. I've only ever done international property, and when I was in London, it was quite a big thing for the big property investors, property developers to go across to Cannes. For those of you onshore, it's in France, and to go to MIPIM. It's the biggest property event in the world. It's been going for over 30 years. 80,000 people go through the doors, and the prices on the tickets are just extravagant. I think you said, Hennie, somewhere in the region of about 4,000 to 4,500 euros in terms of, you know, that's just to be able to walk through. And my question to you is that if you've got so many successful people, where to be honest, money is probably not the issue, time is their most valuable asset. Why do people spend the time? Why did you spend the time? You know, why did you and Peter get on a plane, fly all the way over there, other than the fun? But from a business perspective, why did you and 80 other thousand of the most successful people on this planet go to MIPIM?
Well, Scott, I think it's a unique opportunity for investors and specifically, you know, property professionals where they meet on an annual basis to discuss the way forward, to look at opportunities, to network, to partner, to evaluate opportunities and meet face to face, you know, from different parts of the world, and where they can share ideas. And as I said, you know, look forward, look in the mirror and see what's going to happen in the next couple of years as far as property is concerned.
And I mean, just as my interest, you know, there's obviously property events all over the planet. You know, in the East, you've got them in South Africa, you've got them all over America. I went to many of the biggest ones in London. But from my experience and having the privilege of having dealt with some of the biggest and most successful kind of property investors worldwide, this is it. I mean, this is the Oscars of property. This is where literally you go to meet, to network, to partner with the best on the planet. Is that right in terms of the understanding?
Yes, absolutely. I think from all over the world, people are coming there, you know, to learn, but also to offer their products that they have developed, to offer investment opportunities. And that's where the important professionals in the industry meet and where they do the deals.
So now tell me, you know, you came back and you were very, very excited. And before we actually get on to that biggest lesson, there was something else that you said to me, which I think is really, really important, is that we're all so busy in our day-to-day lives that actually just getting that week away where your mind was being expanded by fellow sophisticated people plus industry experts and everything else. You also said that you had plenty of time to think. And, you know, in life, we often get caught up and there's so many things happening and you don't actually have time just to kind of take a macro view and look at it. I mean, was that a valuable component for you to be able to step out and kind of focus on the bigger picture, if you want to call it, rather than the dynamic day-to-day stuff?
Yes, Scott, that is so true. You know, you normally you get so involved in your business and the day-to-day operations of what you're doing that you don't, you know, give yourself the opportunity to step back a little bit and, you know, look at the business and what you're actually doing. And the week away, you know, they gave me that opportunity, firstly. Secondly, you know, to share and to listen to other people, to talk to other people, to have sufficient time, you know, where you can just sit down with people and talk about what they're doing and, you know, the lessons they've learned and, you know, the way they approach the property development and investment in property in their country, you know, give you the opportunity really to think and to evaluate what you're doing and to see whether you need to make changes. The property industry was in the past, you know, a very slow changing industry, but things have throughout the world, you know, speed is the thing. And even the property industry will be subject to that change that's taking place on a daily basis. And, you know, I had the opportunity to look at the property industry from a perspective of change and globalization.
It's quite interesting you say that. I had a very good friend of mine. He runs a company in Cape Town. They look after short-term lettings, and his mindset was that you couldn't build a business where they had more than but somewhere between 60 and 80 properties. And he always jokes with me that Cape Town is the burial ground for entrepreneurship and ideas. Anyway, he took the effort. He got on an airplane, flew over to the west coast of America, and every single person he met at his industry function didn't operate unless they had anywhere from 300 to 7,000 properties. And that just gave him an awakening of how small sometimes, we're actually playing and the bigger scale. And really for me, it kind of brings us on to the next question, which, you came back with pretty much the biggest lesson. There was one thing that you came back and you said that you had taken away from the entire event. And could you just talk us through that? I mean, what was it basically? What is everyone talking about? And what do we need to know in terms of where we're going?
Well, Scott, there's a couple of things that I think was very interesting for me and I think very valuable to learn. The first thing is property as an asset class of preference is growing. More and more people are becoming aware as change and uncertainty in the world sort of increases, is aware of the stability that property is offering. Allocation of total investment capital classes, real estate has grown by 10% in the last year or two. So more and more people and more the funds of the world is going into property. The second trend that was very clear to me, property, there's a strong move to internationalize property investment. Previously, and that was my perception, people would focus on property in their city, in their suburb, or at least in their country where they understand the game. And, as they said about property, there's only three things that's important, and that is location, location, location. But I can see and I experienced the trend that people are starting to invest over borders. And that is a very important trend that I picked up there. But to be able to do that, partnering has become increasingly important. It's impossible to sit in South Africa and to invest or develop a property in another part of the world where you don't understand the local dynamics. And therefore, and you will never have all the knowledge and the expertise and the local knowledge in terms of those different parts of the world. So partnering is very important. Secondly, the time to grow organically, I think, is something of the past. There's no time in the modern world with the massive changes that's taking place to reinvent the wheel. You need to go into a place, partner with the right people, and see and find the opportunities, the lucrative opportunities immediately. Another trend is that, which was a
No, I was just going to say
another trend which was also very clear to me.
I'll let you finish, Eddie.
Okay. The other trend was that, the first world is still a very favorite destination for investment, for funds to invest in. And, that was also, there's a lot of talk about other parts of the world. But if you really look at capital preservation and steady growth over a longer period, the first world is definitely the favorite at the moment. And the last trend, which was very interesting to me, is that there's lots of interest in property from Asia and the East to invest in good, solid, yielding properties in the developed world.
Now, tell me just something that it's very interesting you said that, because, when I had the privilege of playing golf with George Ross, that is Donald Trump's right-hand advisor and has been for the last 30 years. And when I asked him, how they expand in terms of different markets, he said they always find local partners. And he pretty much said to me, I said, I mean, you can watch the video again, it's on YouTube, where I said to him something along the lines of, so if you don't use a local partner, you're probably going to fail. And this man at 86 turned around to me and said, I didn't say probably fail, I said definitely fail. They base their whole model on partnering. And what I found absolutely fascinating in terms of those trends and what you're talking about is that it really kind of sparked the idea, and it's really the basis upon which we like to do business. and it's really what differentiates ourselves. And you know, we had 16 people sitting around a table in Atlanta. Everyone had flown in from all over the world and all around America. And we said, guys, why don't we put on a property summit? Why don't we get the best in the world on the planet out to South Africa so that people can actually get to meet the partners? You know, and there's events around the country in May, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about it at the end. And if you do stay on to the end, you know, I'm going to actually share with you how you can get a 70% discount. Because for me, what the big difference is that we came out with the concept of summits. We've done a few of them now, and at the moment there's lots of summits. There's lots of you know, the Rich Dad Poor Dad guys are doing a summit. There's a whole bunch of other people doing summits, and I always said for a long time, you know, imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. You know, it's a great saying. I always say to our team, you know, if you're not being copied, you're not doing something right. But you know, people say to me, and my team has been asking us, why are we different? And you know, some of the things, Hennie, that I think are important is that the 20th century was about selling things. So when people normally do events, they sell things, they try to sell DVDs, they sell coaching. The success rate is abysmal. It's something like 96% of people don't actually do anything and never make their money back. The 21st century, based on what you've just said, and it's the laws of nature, to be honest, all about partnerships. It's about people coexisting, people coming together, people's interests being aligned, and most importantly, people succeeding together. For us, you know, I think one of the things that differentiates us more than anything is our international property experience. You know, a lot of people can talk the game, a lot of people can be salesmen, a lot of people can kind of tell you what you should or shouldn't be doing. But the question is, are they actually doing it? And that really is where it comes down to the track record and what people are actually doing. And, you know, I always find it very interesting, but one of our key team members is one of our senior asset managers, and he actually used to run the Rich Dad Poor Dad training in the UK. He was the head of their training series. And he's pretty much come to our team. He's told us what worked and what didn't work. But from our perspective, it's taking what worked and also changing it and adapting it. So it creates a very, very unique environment. And when you look at it, you know, it's all about going straight to the top. You know, something I learned a very long time ago, and I know, Hennie, you've experienced this, is that don't mess around with the middleman. Don't mess around with the salesman that doesn't really know what they're doing and certainly has no experience. My attitude is go straight to the top and partner with the best. And if you get an idea just in terms of the niche and where we're at and why this global property summit is so important, is that we only do real estate. We only do international real estate. That's all we've ever done in terms of our experience. Our combined experience across our investment committee is 128 years. I mean, if you take the likes of President, you know, Dr. Dolph DeRuis, he's the author of the best-selling book, Real Estate Riches. You know, he's the global authority on international property. He created REAP and REAM. He's invested on multiple continents. He's coming. And not only do you have the opportunity to learn from him, it's not about buying CDs or DVDs. You've got the opportunity to partner with him. Hennie, who you're going to learn a lot more from tonight, and many of you have got to meet, you know, he's done it many, many times. He's listed 2 different companies. He's invested, he's made mistakes. And we're going to share with you tonight how you can, with as little as 20,000 Rand, actually invest in some of the best in international investments around the world with them. Not where they earn fees, not where it's a book or a DVD being sold up front, but partnering, your dollar sitting right next to their dollar. We've got Ian Scott on board. He's the senior manager partner of Grant Thornton, South Africa. They audit over 80% of the South African property funds. I don't think you get a better person in terms of tax, compliance, structuring, and understanding the bigger picture. From my perspective, you know, I don't need to talk hopefully too much about myself, but you know, in terms of, we've got the book out with Clem Santa. It's the authority on international property investment. You know, often I'm quoted in the press as being the leading global investor in South Africa. We've got Jaco, Brendan, and Ryan. You know, Jaco and Brendan both come from extensive backgrounds. Jaco literally ran the second biggest development company in South Africa. You know, Brendan comes from a very strong property and IT background, and Ryan has been an international investor for over 7 years. And I just wanted to jump in there, Hennie, because you spoke about partnerships. And it's not just about partnering, but it's also the quality of the partners that we're talking about. And I wanted to just kind of give people a bit of an update as to the Global Property Summit and what is different, what is unique. You know, the bottom line is no one is going to be sold anything. They are going to be given the opportunity to partner with the best. So with that in view, the third question that I was fascinated by when you were going through your notes was, which are the best countries to focus on over the next decade? Where should we be focusing? You know, we're global citizens now. What is the future?
Yes, Scott, I think that's a very interesting question at the moment. There's a lot of uncertainty in the world, and it depends on what is your objective with your investment in property. But if we look at property, it's a long-term investment, and therefore stability is a number one priority. And from that perspective, if capital preservation and steady growth is your objective, I think the UK, United States, certain parts of Europe like Germany and France, and then Australia. That was definitely at the conference the favorite areas from that perspective. If you look at short-term capital appreciation, it seems to me that Spain offers unique opportunities now for the next year or so. If you look at growth and high returns, obviously it goes with a lot more risk than parts of Europe, the BRICS countries, and the Middle East. There's options, but the risk there is a problem, and the BRICS countries, what I could gather from the conference, is not very favorable at the moment due to political and other risks involved in those countries.
Now, Tommy, I mean, you spoke quite a lot about where the money was coming from. I mean, where is the international investment really coming from? I mean, where is the most kind of prosperous area that is taking money out and investing internationally?
Well, Scott, that was very clear for me from only in the United States, where they had physical numbers on the conference in one of the presentations. There was $38 billion invested in property in the United States in 2013. And the majority of that was coming from Asia, the East, that is Singapore, Malaysia, Taiwan, Hong Kong, and those areas. So a lot of money is flowing from those areas to a stable market like the United States, where obviously due to the GFC there was lots of opportunities, but the market has bounced back. But still, despite the fact that the market has bounced back, there's a lot of money flowing from that part of the world to the United States.
And is there any coincidence that on that basis we are actually opening up in Singapore, hopefully in July?
Absolutely. I think we would like to make use of that opportunity, and we've seen the trend now that there is a lot of appetite in that part of the world for a stable, good properties in a country where there's huge opportunities. If we look at specific cities and in areas that people would like to invest in and what's the best opportunities, I think what I could gather from the conference was that logistics is a very favorite at the moment. That is where people are moving around, and a lot of stuff get moved from east to west and north to south. And the areas where this is going through, those cities, and most of it get transported by air, and those areas, the aero cities or the areas around airports, it's going to be a very favorable investment opportunity. The other thing is gateway cities. The world has become a small place, and due to internet and air travel, people are doing business all over the world, and people moving, and visit the places where they do business, and they go through certain cities. And these cities is also a very prominent area of investment for the smart money in the world. Then there's certain industrial plays or developments, and especially when it's associated with energy and resources, they are very, very important opportunities. And then techno cities, like Silicon Valley and those places and the other places in the world, that's also opportunities that one should not overlook.
I mean, I think that you've gone into a huge amount of detail. I know with the likes of Alan and Stefan and some of the people that we had a huge amount of fun with on our last trip. We went into a lot of detail, and obviously again at the Global Property Summit and even more so at the Billionaire Breakaway, we're going to go into that in a huge amount of detail. I mean, I know as an example, and I'm not even going to say where, but we're currently trying to secure an opportunity right next to a brand new airport that's coming in, because it very much sums up what you're saying in terms of understanding the long-term trends. Because as Dolph de Roos always says, if you understand the long-term trends, it's pretty simple to succeed. You know, a rising tide rises all boats, but you've got to know which direction the tide's going in. And these are the fundamental characteristics that you've picked up from MIPIM, and it's so pertinent in terms of when you're looking globally as to where to invest and which sectors, which areas. Now, you said to me that you had the top 10 cities that they had been through. What were those cities? You know, what can you remember the order that they were in and what they were? Because I find it quite interesting and quite fascinating.
Yeah, Scott, I can't remember the exact order, you know, and priority list from 1 to 10, but I know that the first 3 is London, which is absolutely the favorite at the moment. I mean, London has proved itself over and over, and really, I mean, as far as property is concerned, London will remain a very important investment destination. Then there's New York, Paris, then San Francisco, Houston, Los Angeles, Seattle, Atlanta, and then there's cities outside America, which is Singapore, Istanbul, Berlin, and cities like that. So it's very interesting. It was very interesting for me to see that how many people still prefer cities in the United States as very important investment destinations, and those cities meet their criteria. So that is a list where people prefer to invest, and this list was based on a survey that was done between global investors and funds all over the world, and they have indicated these cities as the cities that they would like and have invested and will be investing in the future.
Look, it's very interesting, and this is why property is so dynamic and why going to things like MIPIM are so important, and all the modeling and the book that we did in terms of, you know, property going global. And if you guys are interested, I can send you a link to it. So just type in property going global. But the whole scenario that we did with Clem Santa is that it's not quite as easy as that. I mean, you look at a 4-dimensional model, and if you take London, I mean, I personally own London properties, and I'm not selling them. But I mean, if you look at buying them right now, they're the most expensive, and I'm talking residential or commercial, that they've ever been, with the lowest yields that they've, in comparison. So there's a huge amount of factors taken into account. But as you said, London really is the financial hub, and a lot of people are really attracted to it. But like with most things in life, one has to be able to have a sophisticated model to be able to plug things and take all the variables, all the fundamentals, all the research, and then be able to make the right decisions. And that's why, tonight on this webinar, we're trying to explore all the different lessons that we learned. However, when we invest, we take all the lessons that we've learned, we put them into our experience, we put them into our models, and it helps us get our results. So my next question, Hennie, from your perspective is, if you look at it, what are the key things to look for when deciding on a city? I mean, you've given us kind of 10 different cities. I know you've invested on different continents. What are some of the things you look for? I mean, you've mentioned some of the bigger things, but what else do you look for basically that are key things?
Well, Scott, I think that's what I try to follow what Dolph de Roos was saying, and I've done it over the last couple of years with a great deal of success. And Dolph said the most important thing, if you look at to invest in a particular area, whether it's a neighborhood, whether it's a city, whether it's a country, you must look for population growth. If there is population migrating to that city or that neighborhood, it will always be a good destination for investment. So the first thing that I'm looking at, if I look at a city, is population growth for the next 10 to 20 years. If that's the case, I can tell you it will be a good investment destination. Secondly, and that I picked up from the conference, the gateway cities will be determined by the friendly cities, the 24/7 type of cities where people are always welcome. There's a lot of activities going on, and it's a friendly city where there's job growth, where there's security, the rule of law is in place, it's tax efficient, and then there's obviously other considerations as well. What I've learned from my experience, it's very, very difficult to do deals in a country where the language is a problem. Then you're dependent on an interpreter. It's not always, you're not always sure whether they're telling the other party exactly what you mean. So I would say, try to stick to countries where at least you can handle the language issue. And then the other thing that I also picked up at the conference was you must look at cities where there are supply constraints, in those markets. So there's cities with, with a limited expansion potential. There's not land available. Regulations and approvals is a problem because then, supply will be limited and the prices will go up. So that is sort of the things that I try always to take into account when I look at cities that I would like to invest in.
And I mean, just in terms of, when one looks at it, it's also, I mean, I know something that you and I have discussed on multiple occasions as well, is that in the past you've invested in some places where it was kind of made based on maybe one resource or, mining town, et cetera. And, that's not as safe and sustainable as the bigger cities like the ones you mentioned that are across multiple industries, multiple different employers and the whole pulling factor that brings people to cities. And it is something to take into account because sometimes people chase the high yield and get burned. And it's very important that they understand their investment strategy when one's considering where to invest. Because right now, as an example, you can go to Detroit and it all looks hell of a good on paper, but the bottom line is, its only real job provider has fallen apart, and therefore 25% of the city's shut down.
Scott, that's absolutely right. I've learned, a very important lesson in Australia. When we first started up in Australia, I mean, our partner there convinced me to invest in Townsville, which is a town in the regional sort of capital of the northeast Queensland area. And he explained to me at that stage that there was a lot of things going to happen in the town. It's a town of about 200,000 people. And one division of the Australian military was going to move up there. They opened a new university. There was a lot of activity as far as mining is concerned in that area. So there were, major developments for that size of town. 4 or 5 big new industries or businesses that they would open up there. And we decided to invest there. The problem is if there's only 5 major employers, then, if one of them picks up a problem, you can easily and very quickly reach a situation where demand is exceeding supply, or otherwise supply exceeding demand. And it can create a problem. And that is exactly what we've experienced there. There was a delay in the military moving up there, and there was 1 or 2 other delays, and all of a sudden, we couldn't find buyers for our properties. On the other hand, we've done, a couple of investments and developments in Brisbane, thousands and thousands of employer groups. If 5 or 10, 100 of them experience a problem or there's a downturn in the economy, it doesn't affect the market that much. So my real advice to people would be really go for the bigger cities and don't go after cities that's dependent on 1 or 2 or 3 industries.
There's one other thing to add to that Clem Sunter talks a lot about. And again, if you want to watch the video where Clem and I went through it in detail, I can send you the link. Just type in Clem Sunter. But basically, in a nutshell, it's not also or only about population growth. Population growth is very important, but it's also the quality of the population growth. So what I mean by that is that if you take Europe, it's an aging population. And, he makes some jokes about how the Italian Roman Catholic, nation is actually declining. If you put a roof over an English village, it's an old age home. And also the quality of people coming into the country are not necessarily at the caliber that you want, similar to the problems we've got in South Africa with people coming across the border. Whereas in a place like America, as an example, you've got a youthful population, a growing population, an entrepreneurial population, and an educated population. And even better, Australia, who is absolutely adamant as to who lands. And there's only 2 ways to get into South Africa. Into Australia. You've either got money or skills. And these components are all very, very important and back up what you're saying, Hennie. But there's a whole level of scientific understanding that needs to take place rather than, just kind of pointing to the bigger cities. And what we're trying to do tonight is just kind of give you an overview in terms of some of the elements that we focus on. But obviously, once you get to spend time with us, I mean, you can ask a guy like Alan or Stefan, who just spent 10 days with us in America. We're grilling people for 10 days on the trot, asking all these questions to get to the bottom of it, to do the due diligence, to make sure that we're focusing on the safety. Now, Hennie, once you go macro, micro, so now we're in the city, okay, let's just for argument's sake say we choose one of those 10 cities you mentioned. What sectors, what property sectors, real estate sectors are the most robust based on global trends from what you've understood?
Scott, from the conference, they were very, very bullish about the aero cities, the warehousing and aero cities, near major airports. They believe there's a big opportunity in that sector at the moment. And if you look at OR Tambo and what's happening around that area, you can see that happening in South Africa as well, because Johannesburg will most probably be the gateway into Africa and what's going to happen in Africa. As far as I'm concerned, there are strong growth in special residential type of opportunities. And the biggest one there, with the baby boomers getting to the age of retirement, is senior living. And that's not necessarily old age homes per se, but that is catering for the needs of people from the age of 65, up to a later stage of life where they will be dependent on medical facilities and things like that. So senior living in its widest context, it seems to me, going to be a very hot topic in the next couple of years to come. Linked to that is medical opportunities. With the aging population, especially in the first world, medical facilities, I think there's a need for either redevelopment or new facilities and more modern facilities to be built. Then student accommodation is also a hot topic. It has been and it will still be for the years to come in certain parts of the world. And then multifamily homes with densification strategies of many cities around the world, I think that's also going to be an opportunity that one should not overlook. And then obviously it seems to me there's also a need for new generation offices, what I would like to call it, and that is self-sustaining office buildings, that comply with the latest trends in terms of office layout and savings in terms of cost. So what I could gather from the conference, that is the areas that I believe would offer great opportunities in the next 3 to 5 years.
And just as my interest, and I know that someone pretty much summed you up at the billionaire ball as a consummate gentleman, which I must admit I had to go and look up, but it's a great compliment. And what I mean by that is that just to give everyone who's on the line tonight just a little bit of a background here. If we take those 4 sectors, Hennie's just got off a call, and you don't need to go into the details, Hennie, because we're going to keep it as a nice surprise and a secret. But with some of the biggest investors in South Africa putting together over a billion rand opportunity to literally build right next to one of the brand new airports that's going into one of the most exciting areas on the planet. On top of that, your business partner who was with you in MIPIM, as we've looked at multiple student opportunities in London and in Australia, and I know that he personally has over like 2,000 student accommodation units in South Africa. When one looks at the new generation offices, we've got a project that we've been doing a huge amount of work there in terms of that, and finally in terms of the medical, and we're going to talk a little bit about medical, in one of the last questions, but it doesn't surprise me at all that pretty much your focus, on top of the residential, is very much in all those major areas, because, at the end of the day, I learned this a long time ago, and actually, funny enough, Robert Kiyosaki spoke about it in one of his books, and he said one of the easiest ways to get wealthy is just follow long-term trends. And, very much you spotted the trends, you've told people about the trends, but what I'm trying to emphasize for people is that you've got your money where your mouth is in terms of actually implementing on those trends.
Yeah, Scott, I think we've got some of it right, especially as far as the medical is concerned, which is also an area that offers a lot of opportunities in South Africa at the moment. I mean, the situation here is different. We've had lots of people that haven't had the opportunity to be covered by health insurance or medical aid, and I think they're coming on board. And there's a government initiative to also provide cover of some sort to everybody in South Africa. So the National Health Insurance Scheme is coming on board in the next couple of years. So all of that is driving the demand for medical services. And with the aging population, you know, there's definitely the opportunity in that market. And I think we can see it now. There's also changes in the delivery model, where people would like to have one-stop medical facilities, you know, almost like a shopping center where all facilities is available at one destination or one area. And we see that developing, you know, these medical nodes, if we can call it, you know, in different parts of the country, where around major hospitals, you get a whole medical sort of suburb developing with all the facilities available to people in that area.
Tell me from your perspective. I mean, you talk about medical, and I know you well. In the moment we get started on medical, I know it's a passion of yours. But for someone that is, you know, currently, how many hospitals are you currently building in South Africa? I can't keep up because every time I talk to you, you've secured more land. But how many are you currently? I mean, you've got quite serious medical expansion plans in South Africa and into Africa at the moment, correct?
Yes, Scott, I think currently we've got 5 licenses that have been approved by government. That's all the other thing I like about medical, because, you know, there's barriers of entry. You can't just go there and build a hospital. You need to get a license, and those licenses just going to get only awarded if there is that you can prove that there's a need for it. But currently we've got 5 licenses, and we've got 13 in the pipeline to be approved for day hospitals. And then I don't take into account the subacute hospitals that also will be, you will see be developed over the next couple of years.
And I mean, look, we're not going to go into the details tonight, but I also know you've come up with a very unique financing model where you can build these hospitals with not a lot of cash out of your own pocket, and really, you know, benefit all parties involved. And that's the type of stuff that we will discuss around the fire at the Billionaire Breakaway. But it's hugely exciting. But, you know, with all this opportunity in South Africa, why is globalization so important to you? Why do you take the time, the effort to jump on an airplane, to go overseas, to go to Australia, to go to the Middle East, you know, to go to Europe, to go to America? Well, why is it so important to you, basically, in terms of what's happening?
Well, Scott, I think, you know, I think we must all admit that globalization is a given. And globalization should change the way in which we think and do business. And then from a South African's perspective, I think, you know, risk diversification should definitely be on our agenda. We all understand the risks and political risks associated with South Africa and what's going on here. And obviously the value of our currency and the long-term trends as far as that is concerned. So I think from a South African's perspective, you know, risk diversification should be and is a must. You must look at that. Secondly, I think all over the world, you know, in the global village, there's a lot of opportunities. And we've seen it in the last couple of years in the United States. We see it in other parts of the world. And globalization, you know, put you in a position where you can make use of these opportunities, where you can apply your particular skill set in the world, and not only your suburb or your country, but worldwide. And I think that is the reason why one should not only look in your area, but look worldwide and find those opportunities. They vary from time to time. And if you look on a global basis, somewhere in the world, at that particular stage, there will be an opportunity that's lucrative for you to develop. And, you know, therefore, one needs to have an international footprint. You need to have the right partners to enable you to optimize and make use of the opportunities that exist. And that's a reason why from our side, Scott, we also look at the Directors Club, you know, because previously, you know, people was going back to the office. The trend currently today is I'm doing business all over the world, and I want my office to follow me. If I'm in Atlanta and I want to have a meeting, I want to plug into an office and have my office just there immediately where I am and where I need it at the moment. It doesn't help me if I need to must come back to South Africa before I can start working. So the Directors Club is an idea where you can plug into an office, immediately be effective, and can get on with your work wherever you are in the world or in whichever city you are. That's not going to take place over in the next month or two or year, but surely that is the long-term thinking that people would like to see happening.
Tell us just a little bit in terms of people's perceptions about that Brazilian company that you met at MIPIM and their global footprint and how successful they'd been, not only raising capital, but also the returns and what they were doing, and how impressed you were just by all the locations they had around the planet until you actually looked at the people behind the company.
Yeah, well, at MIPIM, I met guys from a company that offers low-cost housing or entry-level housing in Brazil, which, as I've indicated previously, if you look at really the smart investors in the world, that's not really a market due to uncertainty in that market that they're considering at the moment. But these guys are highly, highly successful. They've got a footprint and they've got a nice return. And what I was impressed about is if you invest in euro or in British pounds, your money stay in that currency. And they use that then as security to get money, access to money in Brazil, where they develop, and they pay your returns also in dollars or in pounds or in euros. So I was impressed by that, and that opportunity, and through that, they got a lot of interest out of Asia in the East, and they've got offices in all those countries, 7 offices, a world, an international footprint, and they're raising a lot of money in those parts of the world to fund their operations. And the uniqueness to their scheme is that they eliminate the currency risk, because from our side, if you are in a developing country, you would prefer to have your money in a hard currency. But there's a lot of money in Europe, for instance, where they get on savings very, very low, if any, interest. And for them, it's very lucrative to invest in the developing world in opportunities where they can get high returns. But the big problem is the currency risk. So and this particular company offered them the opportunity to eliminate the currency risk.
So, I mean, basically, I think it leads very well into my second last question, which was, you've got a very good understanding of the future. You've got the experience, and you take the time to understand what is happening. And there was a question asked with a panel of experts, and it leads in very well with what you just said, where first world investors want to invest in the emerging world, and emerging world want to invest in the first world. But at the moment, most people don't know what to do. They're too scared, and there's certainly not a framework in place to be able to do it. How did that go? What was the kind of the feedback at MIPIM when those questions were raised?
Scott, yes, I attended a presentation about this specific topic. What is the future of property development, especially if it's internationalized and people are investing across border? How will it happen? How will it take place? How do you handle all the administration and the flow of funds and tax issues, etc., etc.? And what was interesting to me when the question was asked out of the audience to the panel, they were sort of looking at each other, and they had no idea, they had no answer to the people. This, as South Africans, is a critical question and something that we are struggling and battling with every day. How do I get my money out of the country? How do I manage my property in the United States or wherever? How do I make sure it's the right investment opportunity? And I'm always aware of the administrative burden that it will place on me. Due to this and due to our background here, we've done a lot of work to try to solve this problem. And I'm glad to say that we have entered into an agreement with a major international IT group, and we will launch this at the Wealth Migrate Summit in May in South Africa, which will change the property business, which will make it possible and easy for anyone, anywhere in the world, to invest in any property without any hassles. And also smaller amounts, we don't need to pay, to invest millions, organized finance and all of that. All of that will be taken care of, and it will be an easy one-stop solution to the international property investor.
I mean, it's so exciting, Hennie. I can't wait to unveil it, at the launch. And I think we speak with a South African accent and we've got a South African flavor, but we've managed to partner with the #1 company out of Silicon Valley. We managed to pull together the most powerful global team in terms of real estate investment. And I mean, no one can compare in terms of the experience, the years, and the track record. But I think the thing that excites me probably more than anything is that we've also managed to position ourselves in the exact same setup and situation as Amazon, Google, Coca-Cola, and 80% of some of the biggest companies in the world. And, I think it's really exciting that a South African company with a bunch of guys that, from South Africa, but we've now very much become an international team, is going to take on the world, revolutionize the property industry. And we're really going to start in South Africa in May, purely because we're South African and we're passionate about it. We want to get started in South Africa. But we're then going from there, we're off to the east, we're going to Australia, we're going to the UK, America, etc. And so, it really is an opportunity for South Africans at the Global Property Summit to really get first bite of the cherry and before we internationalize it and roll out literally a different country every single month. For those of you who might be interested in the Global Property Summit, if you just type in GPS, one of the team can get hold of you tomorrow and actually show you how you can get a large discount just for being on this webinar. And I must admit, I'm really struggling, Hennie, to hold back because it really is exciting in terms of what we're doing. My final question to you before we just finish off here is, what has been the motto that you evolved from MIPIM? I mean, you came up with an absolutely classic saying that I've used multiple times. But what is your kind of motto that you came up with?
Well, Scott, I think the one lesson that I have learned and that was sort of emphasized, also for the property industry, that the world is changing fast. The only thing that's certain is change. And in a fast-changing world, the window of opportunity will be very, very short. I always tell my children that when I grew up, and I'm not going to say how many years ago, but it is more than 30. If you had a new idea, the window of opportunity was 3 to 4 years before somebody can copy your idea. That was 30 years ago. They tell me now that it's an hour or less than an hour if you've got a new idea. So the motto of this, the bottom line of all of this, you need to move fast. You either make dust or you eat dust. There's no way that you have the opportunity to spend a lot of time on a new idea. We must move fast, you must act, you must decide what to do, or otherwise you'll eat dust.
And I mean, just to reiterate, I love that saying. I've used it so often, and I think it is the future now. You literally, the way companies change and companies adapt, and how quickly things happen nowadays. It really is. If you look at the iPhone, killed the BlackBerry, and Samsung's pretty much killing the iPhone. And the point being is that literally you've got to make things happen, and there's only one way to do it nowadays, and it's through partnership. I wanted to finish off with a practical example of a lot of what you're telling us about, and just give us a little bit of insight. Again, Hennie, I know we're going through the due diligence, and I know we really, and there's a huge amount of work that you and Alan and John and Bruce and the rest of the team are all doing here. But what is it that we looked at specifically in terms of medical opportunity? I know we've secured it and got it under contract, but it's something that we will be, unveiling to people in early May once we tick the boxes, cross the T's and dot the I's. But just tell us a little bit about the medical opportunity that you're excited about.
Yes, Scott. I think we found an opportunity, which is a niche opportunity in Atlanta, which is one of the cities that is on our list of really gateway cities with a lot of global, corporate companies that operate from that area. It is a portfolio of 7 medical buildings, which meets our criteria in terms of a sound investment, fairly new buildings, buildings that's all leased out. I think we're over the 90% in terms of leases in place. It's got a net cash flow. It's got an IRR of just below 20% over the 5-year period. And there's still a little bit of upside where we can improve in terms of our yield. So that is the sort of opportunities we're looking at, and we're investigating up at the moment. We're looking at deals between about 5 and 15 million, which is about between 50 and 150 million, which is sort of the sweet spot for South Africans to invest in as a group or as individuals. And so, yes, this is an exciting opportunity. We are looking at all the different angles now. We're doing the feasibility and the due diligence. We've got a full team working on it. And as soon as we're happy that it's the right opportunity, this is the sort of investment opportunity we would like to bring to South African investors. And jointly, as partners, we invest with you in these opportunities that we have identified and that we feel is good enough for our money and therefore good enough for you or to advise you to invest in.
And I think one of the things that's so important there is, I mean, you've been in the medical game since, I think it was 1983. You've been in medical commercial property since 1992. I mean, that's a huge amount of experience. And what I was extremely impressed by was that our partner on the ground there, Paul, has equally been in the medical game. So, I mean, you had two people that specialize in medical buildings, and then we found a medical opportunity. And we're doing a joint venture which suits our model perfectly, where we're partnering with a gentleman on the ground, and we're co-investing in this opportunity. And I just think it summarizes so much of what we're trying to discuss tonight. It's that whole make dust, eat dust. It's that whole evolution of the 20th century where people sell you books or DVDs versus the 21st century where it's all about partnering. And again, that's the whole essence of why we put this event together in May, and more importantly, and far more strategically, why we put this opportunity together where we literally are going to revolutionize the property industry in terms of where we're going. So I mean, that's just a bit of insight. And for people who come along to the Global Property Summit, and even more so people who come to the Billionaire Breakaway, they'll get access to partner with the likes of Hennie and myself and Alan and multiple of these really sophisticated investors. Now, if you're equally sophisticated, fantastic, because you can chew the fat. Like, it was amazing watching Hennie and Alan go back and forth. I think Bruce and Paul have never had a grilling like it. But the beauty is Bruce and Paul stood up to it, and that's the benefit of it. And if you're not as sophisticated, well, fantastic, you get to partner and learn with some of the best out there. So, just to remind you of those dates, we've got Durban on the 13th of May, we've got Cape Town on the 15th of May, we've got Midrand on the 20th of May, and we are continuing to support the people of Bloemfontein on the 22nd of May, and then the Billionaire Breakaway, which will be Dolph and RJ and myself and Hennie, where we'll be going away, and that'll be outside of Johannesburg or Pretoria within a 2-hour radius from the 23rd to the 25th of May. There are 3 different types of tickets. You've got your standard, your VIP, and your platinum. There's a huge amount of detail on the website. I mean, if I go through to the website quickly, you'll actually see here that all the detail is actually sitting down here in terms of the different tickets. But there's a huge amount of value. And actually, if you buy off the website tonight, there's still a 50% discount, still an early bird discount. However, if you type in GPS, tomorrow I'll get the sales team, as a thank you for people that have been on this webinar tonight, to actually give you an opportunity to get a 70% discount. So a further 20% discount, but that's only going to last for tomorrow. So the people who watch it on YouTube, tough for them. And there are really limited opportunities, particularly in the platinum and the VIP. You get the opportunity to spend time together to talk. It's not just about learning, it's about talking, it's about networking, and ultimately it's about partnering. I mean, that's that's the essence of the game. That's why we're here. But I do suggest you take a look through it. You'll see there's a huge amount of value adds that we have put together with our different partners, so that because at the end of the day, they only want to partner with people that are sophisticated and can make educated, informed decisions. So if they've got materials that can help you, education material, we're giving it to you for free so that you literally are at the same level and can help make the right decisions for you based on the investment opportunities that we've got. I've spoken, already about why we're different, and just to summarize again, imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. There's so many other summits now, people trying to sell books and DVDs and coaching. That's not what we're about. We are the 20th century, that's what it's all about. The 21st century is working and partnering with people, like what you've spoken so much about tonight, Hennie. The international property experience, the track record, the difference between a sales company and an investment company. They chalk and cheese in terms of what people are looking and what they're doing, and I think most importantly, it's about going straight to the top. We don't deal with the middle management of Grant Thornton. We deal with Ian Scott, who is right at the top of Grant Thornton, South Africa. That niche combined experience of 128 years. To remind you again, you've got Dr. Dolph de Roos, who's sitting there as the president. You've got Hennie as the chairman. You've got Ian, in terms of fulfilling that role, in terms of the tax, the compliance, the structuring, obviously across multiple jurisdictions and multiple countries. You've got myself in terms of driving the process, and then three of our partners in Jacob, Brendan, and Ryan, and really the intensive ability, plus plenty of others. A lot of you met John Chin, our asset manager in America, and there's not enough space to go through all the experience, and everyone is. So I leave you with a thought, basically, and before I kind of hand over to Hennie to finish off, leave you with a thought. And the question is, a lot of people say, how do you eat an elephant? And I think the world's changed now. But it's not just about eating an elephant, it's how do you actually eat a herd of elephants. And I think the best person that can give you the metaphor is that it is Steve Jobs. In 1977, when they had the Apple II computer, he literally said, one day we will have a digital book. And in 2010, literally 33 years later, we had the iPad. Now, it took a huge amount of jumping through a lot of hurdles, a lot of things that we were told it's not possible, parts are not big enough, speeds are not possible. But the bottom line is they stuck to the vision. They literally stuck to the message, they stuck to the vision, and it was created. And for me, it's really, really interesting that in 1998, I literally did my dissertation on IT and how IT could revolutionize the construction and property industry. And I mean, to look at it now, and you can go on my website, go to picken.biz, and you can actually see it there, my dissertation. It's taken old industry steeped in tradition and run by many smaller, disparate, and often inefficient operators, and to redefine it through the use of web technology to increase global reach, partnerships, and efficiencies of scale, so as to provide a one-stop, enhanced, and personalized service to our clients. Now, it's quite interesting. I know that all makes quite a lot of common sense, but try and take yourself back to 1998 when most people couldn't even spell what the internet was. If you take our vision, it was literally to take global property investment and to revolutionize it, be the industry benchmark by 2015 through cutting-edge technology and driven dynamic personnel. And Hennie's alluded to it already, but we're launching something in May that's going to revolutionize the property industry, and I guarantee you it will be the industry benchmark by 2015. And those people that will be at the event will get to actually witness it live and the unveiling. So, from our perspective, at the Global Property Summit, we're going to show people a way that they can invest as much or as little as they want. There's a full back-end system. There's full dashboards. There's an ability to literally track off your cell phone or your iPad. There's complete due diligence, complete understanding, right from beginning to end. And I think it's a huge accolade to the team that we managed to partner with the #1 company out of Silicon Valley, and have literally done a joint venture to create the global platform in terms of where we are. It very much follows with the whole thing that Hennie and I created right from the beginning in terms of nature's laws. The 20th century was all about people trying to work on their own, developers putting their hand up, making all the profit, and everyone else being screwed, business owners putting their hand up, making all the profit, and employees being screwed. The 21st century is about partnership and collaboration, and it's just like the birds. When the birds fly in a flock, they can fly 70% further if they fly in a flock of 25 birds than if they fly on their own. And this is what we are, this is what we're instilling. And I think really the three things that differentiate us from anyone is that our interests are aligned. we don't make any money up front. We only make money once our investors have made money. We only earn a performance fee after a return has been made. And most importantly, our dollar is sitting right next to your dollar and is treated in exactly the same way. We pride ourselves on trust and transparency. And we believe that these are the three new keys to business in the 21st century. And that is why it's based on nature's laws in terms of where we actually are. So, from my side, Hennie, I wanted to thank you a huge amount for your time. It really has been an honor and a privilege. If people want to go to the website, they can go to Global Property Summit. You can see who the different speakers are. You can see the agenda. You can get the dates. As I said to you, if you want to buy now, you can. I'd recommend that you type in GPS, because those people that type in GPS will actually get an additional 20% discount tomorrow, just as a thank you for being online in terms of where we actually are. And from my side, Hennie, before I kind of hand over to you to kind of ask if you've got any final thoughts, but I think a saying that we came up with today, you've really got a choice. In the 20th century, it was about learning from the rest. The 21st century, and particularly with the Global Property Summit, people have an opportunity to partner with the best. And I know it's a little bit corny and a little bit tacky, but it really sums up the difference between the old way business was done and the new way business was done. And I think, just your insight in terms of MIPIM and, people, you paid an absolute fortune to be there, and yet you just shared openly and freely in terms of, what you've learned and why you've learned it and how you've learned it. And I really want to thank you. And I want to thank everyone who's online tonight, because your energy has been fantastic as well. So, this is the way of business. And, Hennie, any thoughts from your side in terms of, final conclusions based on, your experience and everything that's going on at the moment?
Thank you, Scott. I think I just want to thank you and everybody that signed on this afternoon or this evening. It's a privilege for me to share some of the ideas with you guys. Thank you for the opportunity. We would like to invite you to take part in the opportunities and to talk to us about those, and to become part of our team, to become a true partner of the Wealth Migrate team, and to look forward with us, where we try to internationalize property investment, and where we would invite you also to become part of the global village, where business will be done over borders, and where we can really optimize our money and make sure that our wealth is well preserved. Thank you, Scott, and once again, thank you for the opportunity.
Well, thank you very much, and thanks for your insight. And to all of those of you that asked questions, I can see, as an example, Mark said, Scott, how do we keep up to date with the May unveilings if we can't attend the GPS? What I'll do tomorrow is we'll get our asset managers to go through the questions and make sure that we answer them all for you. Also, watch your emails, because another one of our partners, Dr. Dolf de Roos, I know that we have to change the date. It was next Wednesday, but unfortunately he's on an aeroplane. He's actually in Australia currently doing some commercial opportunities, so we're just going to have to change that around a little bit. But make sure you come online. Hennie's alluded a lot to Dolf. We've worked a lot with Dolf, and really, there'll be a lot more insights in terms of where Dolf is going and what his thoughts are and why he wants to be part of it. So thank you for everyone online tonight. It's been fantastic, and most importantly, I think. Not sure what happened there, but from Hennie and I's perspective and everyone else on the team, we look forward to seeing you face to face at the Global Property Summit. So good night and thank you.